when it's quiet in here, then you can hear. Normally courtrooms are so quiet. Okay, now we can do an audio check. Make sure that the media outside the courtroom can hear this. This is an audio check for media outside the courtroom. We'll test the justices' microphones in just a moment. Press outside the courtroom, this is your chance to say yay or nay on the audio. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We'll begin the program shortly. We would just like to remind you, if you can, to turn off your cell phones. It does sometimes create some interference with our audio system. And we do have a court photographer who will be here taking some photographs, and we'll get those up online on our Flickr account as soon as possible, but we'd like to remind you that the court does not allow still photography. Thank you so much. Press, this is an audio check from Justice Rucker's seat. This is an audio check for press outside the courtroom. You can give me the high sign, Brooke Lewis, on whether or not press is receiving this audio signal. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Audio check testing, great, thank you.
All rise. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The Supreme Court of Indiana is now in session. Please be seated.
Wow, what an impressive array of guests in this room today for this special occasion. Thank you all. As we begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge some of the guests that are here. You are all enormously important to this court and to Justice Rush, but we've had to identify some names and not all for some special acknowledgement, and I'd like to do that now. As I read through these names, let's hold the applause, but would each of you rise for a moment and be acknowledged? First of all, you'll hear more from him later, Governor Mitch Daniels. And Lieutenant Governor... This is nothing new. He never did what I wanted him to do. Lieutenant Governor Becky Skillman. Likewise. This is embarrassing for me to tell you not to applaud. It's a natural thing. I understand. Former members of this court, Ted Bohm, Myra Selby, Randy Shepard, and Frank Sullivan. We're also graced today with some of the spouses of the members of the court. My wife, Jan, Cheryl Sullivan, and from the Federal Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago, Judge John Tinder, and his wife, Jan Carroll. The Attorney General, Greg Zeller, and several members of the legislature. Let me name those that we think are here. Tim Lanning, and Bill Friend. I saw Bill coming in, so Bill's here. Sheila Klinker from Lafayette, and members of our Judicial Nominating Commission, either that were active or involved in one way or the other. We have Jim McDonald from Terre Haute, and Molly Kitchell from Zionsville, Bill Whittingham from Indianapolis, and a former member, John Feitner from Fort Wayne. We also have the attorney, the counsel for the commission, Adrian Meering, who supervises and oversees the operations. Also, we have the wife of the former president of Purdue University, Patty Jiske, who's here. Patty? Because of the limits of time, I'm going to stop there. And go on, and we are going to move to the invocation. Father Patrick Bakauskas, would you come forward and lead us in the invocation? Father Bakauskas he's a close friend and pastor, and he's director of campus ministry at St. Thomas Aquinas, the Catholic Center at Purdue. Father Pat.
Thank you. Before I was
pastor at St. Thomas Aquinas, I had a career very different than being in the priesthood. I joke with the students at St. Thomas. I was involved in politics for a long time, and in Illinois, one important distinction to make. And I was blessed to work for 3 governors. And I'm proud of the fact that of the 3 governors that I worked for, only one of them ended up in prison, which is pretty good in Illinois. I mention that today because even though I'm now in the ordained clergy and had led a very different life, I think that it's all to our Creator's great design that we are often called to very unexpected roles in our lives, and we fulfill those if we are open to the will of that Creator. And we become great in many ways. When we're great even as mothers, to be called to even greater things. There is a prayer that Thomas Aquinas, the patron of the place where I work, wrote 800 years ago. And I was reflecting on the invocation today. I thought, well, no better words were written than Thomas Aquinas in his prayer for students. And I'm only changing this very, very little because I think it's a especially appropriate prayer for today and for Judge Rush, and maybe for all of our justices and all of those in positions of responsibility. Creator of all things, true source of light and wisdom, lofty origin of all being, graciously let a ray of your brilliance penetrate into the darkness of my understanding, and take me from the double darkness in which I have been born, in obscurity both of sin and ignorance. Give me a sharp sense of understanding, a retentive memory, and the ability to grasp things correctly and fundamentally. Grant me the talent of being exact in my explanations and the ability to express myself with thoroughness and charm. Point out the beginning, direct the progress, and help in completion. We ask this all in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Bakauskas. I would now like to invite Jacob and Sarah and Mary and Luke, Justice Rush's children, to the podium so that they might lead us all in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And now it's my pleasure to invite to the podium Dr. Will Miller. Dr. Miller is a nationally acclaimed scholar, a theologian, and an expert in organizational health and American culture. But most important for us today, he has been a frequent advisor and a contributor to Justice Rush's court and community programs in Tippecanoe County, and is also a longtime personal friend. Dr. Miller.
Thank you. And it is with some, great respect that I come before this august body. And it was a little intimidating at first until Sally and I were in the law library and noticed that they had bobblehead dolls of all the judges. Sort of diffused the intimidation to some degree. I'm here not so much in my name, but as a friend and member of the community, the neighbors and friends of Judge Loretta Rush, people who know her personally. And with that, first I would like to tell you about Loretta. Loretta is a person who has come to be loved in Lafayette and Tippecanoe County. She has great roots. She's the daughter of a railroad man, the Erie Lackawanna. Traveled around, moved around wherever the railroad was, including a stint in my hometown, Brooklyn, so we know she's tough. She also is politically balanced. She has degrees from both Purdue and Indiana University. She's a mom, a spouse, a woman of towering character. But most of us who know her, and all of you colleagues who know of her, stand in awe of what she has been doing for the past dozen years. Overseeing that juvenile court, and there's really no difference other than perhaps quantity in the sad quality of the experience of what she has overseen from her bench, of toxic families and people hurt and people hurting children. How many of us could do that? I would have lasted 2 hours at that job before I would have gone over the bench. And yet to know Judge Rush, to know Loretta, is to be in awe of the composure of her character. When you see her outside of her circumstance, you feel who she is. A woman of great compassion, a woman of devotion and joy. Not an ounce of cynicism comes from her. And I know if you talk to her family and children, she would say the same thing. We stand in great admiration for this servant leader. Oliver Wendell Holmes said, "The life of the law has not been logic, it has been experience." And when you think about the experience that Judge Rush has been having for the past 14 years, it is a parable of what she will do as she elevates to this circumstance. Because in the front line of the juvenile court are overheated passions, intractable opinions, circumstances where people are rigidly holding on to their rightness, people who are certain that they're right, and it is up to the justice to, with dispassion and emotional disconnection, understand, comprehend, and see through the passion. No one is better equipped for this than Judge Loretta Rush. Winston Churchill once remarked, "A fanatic is someone who won't change their mind and can't change the subject." That's who you see. These people see that intractable passion. For those of us who've come to know and love Loretta, we know that she is uniquely genetically equipped to handle that balance. She has the skill and the training, tempered by story upon story upon story. In her office is a picture of Mother Teresa, and next to it, the description of a servant leader. It's the person who has the capacity to translate vision into reality. They depend on goodwill, not authority. They inspire enthusiasm, not fear. They fix problems, not blame. The person who believes in their followers, the person who stands out in front, the person who inspires others. What Judge Rush has done on behalf of negotiating for children and for parents to heal families is the same judgment, the same compassion, the same rock-steady hand that her long career in law will bring to this august bench. I'd like to work for her, except apparently you have to go to law school. God bless you, Loretta Rush. God bless Indiana and the United States for the service you will continue to bring us. Thank you.
Dr. Miller. Next, I would ask Judge Charles Pratt to come to the podium. Judge Pratt is from Fort Wayne. He is Judge of the Allen Superior Court, has been in that capacity since 1999, and he is one of Indiana's leaders in juvenile justice reform. Judge Pratt.
Thank you, Justice Dixon. Governor Daniels, Lieutenant Governor Skillman, Justices of the Supreme Court, Judges of the Court of Appeals, members of the legislature, and honored guests, it's my great privilege and honor to act as a representative of the judges and judicial officers of Indiana trial courts, many of whom are here present today, in the presentation of the 108th Justice of the Indiana Supreme Court, Loretta Rush. For many reasons, her appointment carries the stature of deserving of historic significance. Of those, two reasons in my mind stand out. The first, and possibly most worthy of note, is that when considered in the context of the three appointments made by Governor Daniels to Indiana's highest court, Justice Rush brings a unique balance to the diversity of intellectual experience, legal expertise, and range of life experiences that she, Justice David, and Justice Massa possess. You see, it's truly remarkable and a true credit to the Judicial Nominating Commission, Governor Daniels, and the Hoosier wisdom exhibited in the selection process that three distinguished individuals from varied backgrounds have been appointed to the Supreme Court without any political acrimony. As a result, we are provided with a court that instills a confidence and trust that rises above the polarity of temporal issues and which instead serves us through reason and law. These time-honored judicial attributes are clearly evident in the individual of Justice Rush. From the first time we worked together years ago at a juvenile justice conference, she demonstrated a passion for developing and refining local juvenile courts through evidence-based practices correlated with the law. Her drive, her focus, her legal knowledge and skill, and her integrity quickly brought her recognition by trial judges as a trusted leader. As part of her responsibilities as a member and later chair of the Juvenile Justice Improvement Committee, she has had the responsibility to meet with members of the executive branch and the legislature to develop and support legislation of significance to the bench and to Indiana's families and children. Through that process, I observed Justice Rush apply her skills and gifts of discernment, negotiation, diplomacy, honest dialogue, and knowledge. You see, her integrity, her honesty, her broad knowledge of federal and state law would seemingly be enough to meet the standards required of a Supreme Court justice. However, Justice Rush also brings another quality, a quality that again marks this day with historic significance. Justice Rush comes to the Supreme Court from roots founded in the daily challenges and rewards realized from her service on the juvenile court bench. She knows firsthand the impact of the law. She knows what it means to issue an order separating a child from a parent for his protection. She has seen the anxiety on the faces of litigants in the courtroom. She understands the relief that is experienced when the court grants justice to an aggrieved person. And she knows the complexity and the emotional impact that every judicial officer experiences when an unpopular decision is mandated by the law. Through it all, she has maintained a resolve to ensure that the application of the law, tempered with compassion as is required by justice, is provided throughout the state. And it's for that very reason that she has earned the respect and confidence of the trial court judiciary in her new role as Supreme Court Justice. In her former courtroom in Tippecanoe County, Justice Rush caused to be displayed a quote by German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Bonhoeffer understood that justice, in the broader sense, requires respect for the individual and for the least of those among us, our children. He wrote, "The test of the morality of a society is what it does for its children. Hoosiers can take heart in knowing that we have a justice on the Indiana Supreme Court that understands and is willing to act upon the principles of justice embodied in that quote. So therefore, on behalf of the judicial officers of Indiana's trial courts, we congratulate Justice Rush, and we pray her a long career and service to the citizens of this state. And Governor Daniels, we present her for admission into the Judicial.
Thank you, Judge Pratt. And now I would ask the Governor of the State of Indiana to come forward for some remarks and to administer the oath of office. Governor Daniels.
This is the 7th time I've had the honor to appear in this courtroom and welcome a new justice to America's finest set of courts. Each one's been a joy and each one's been memorable. Today, we'll probably surpass them, certainly for one reason. We've never seen so large an outpouring of friends and family and advocates and supporters as has come today to celebrate the swearing in of Judge Rush. If you didn't know, the Senate chamber and its gallery are full with people who couldn't get in this room. Now that it's too late to do you any good, I can tell you that this would be a very good day to rob a bank in Lafayette, Indiana. Because nobody's home. No decision that comes to the desk that I've sat behind for 8 years is more difficult, or certainly is taken any more seriously than the selection of someone who is likely to serve in a position of almost unparalleled importance and for who knows how long. And I and those who work with me have spent a lot of time trying to get these right. And while no decision in that category of decisions is hard, no decision in that category that I've had to make was easier than this one. You've already heard some of the reasons. They were reflected in the biography of a woman of remarkable accomplishment and well-rounded preparation in private practice and public capacities for the duty she now assumes. But I heard from an unmatched number and variety of people testifying to the personal qualities that Dr. Miller so eloquently reminded us of. And they came from all over the state. And they came from all walks of life. And they confirmed a view that I was already coming to, that this was really a remarkable opportunity for Indiana to see such a person step up to that bench. They reflected the leadership that she has shown in her judicial career, just so well and succinctly summed up by Judge Pratt. Her 113 counterparts on the juvenile and family court bench chose her as their president. That was both an important affirmation of her qualities, but also an enormously important break for the children of Indiana. Because she served as a leader on the family bench during an era of remarkable reform and improvement in the protection of children in this state, and was a full partner with those who built first a new agency and then a completely new system. In fact, one system, one uniform system, held to the highest standards we know of, to replace 92 systems. And to me, a clinching quality in what I'm sure would already have been the obvious choice for today's appointment was the statesmanlike way in which President Rush of that organization overcame any sense of provincialism, parochialism, territoriality, and saw that the children of Indiana needed not 92 systems of widely varying quality and unimaginably varying cost, but one system that could be constantly pressed for improvement and to standards higher than those that we know of anywhere else. So, in this hardest category of choices, I found on the 7th try the easiest decision I ever had to make. And I'm just so proud to be associated with this particular nomination. I don't want to close without a word about the court that this spectacular judge is about to join. You probably know that in addition to stellar individual reputations, the Indiana Supreme Court, till very recently, enjoyed the greatest period of continuity in its history and in the recent history of any state, as I understand it. What a blessing this was, not only to have people of remarkable, in fact, nationally renowned quality, but to have them on the job together for as long as we did. And only in the last couple years did that period come, that era, that historic era, come to an end. I hope it doesn't diminish the occasion if I say this reminds me a lot of a local football team. And the sentiment of so many that, oh my gosh, where do we find another Peyton, Marvin, Dallas, you pick? And yet, somehow, by blending the experience and wisdom of all pro veterans with a new majority of young talent, success has occurred. This is what I predict for our court. I've asked myself, as this turnover process began, where do you find another Shepherd? Where do you find another Sullivan? Where in the world do you find another Bohm? Well, the answer is, you don't. You hope to grow them. Shepherd wasn't Shepherd, and Sullivan wasn't Sullivan, and Bohm wasn't Bohm 25 years ago, or when their careers began. They were fabulous talents, like the one we're about to honor, but they grew individually, and they grew somehow together in a magical chemistry that I've heard, that I thought I've witnessed, and I've heard these judges testify to, which somehow meant, I guess, that their collective judgment and wisdom was magnified by that collaboration. We already know that our newest judge brings the same remarkable intellectual and personal capabilities that have made this court the finest in the nation. And I just know that she will grow and help her colleagues to grow in building another court of equal distinction and service to our state. And I hope to be there to see it. In another decade or two, when people again say, how did Indiana ever come to have a court so great? And a big part of the answer will be that Judge Loretta Rush joined it and became one of its leaders in the next period of greatness. Judge Loretta Rush, are you prepared to accept the oath of your office? You know this drill, I think. I, Loretta H. Rush,
I, Loretta H. Rush,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
as Justice of the Indiana Supreme Court
as Justice of the Indiana Supreme Court
to the best of my skill and ability,
to the best of my skill and abilities.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Robing is going to now occur, and Jake and Luke Rush are going to retrieve the robe from the hat rack, and they're going to take it over to Sarah and Mary Rush. Sarah and Mary will place the robe on Justice Rush, and we will have a newly robed justice. Now the hard part. At this time, I would like to invite Myra Selby, former justice of this court from 1995 to 1999, currently a partner at Ice Miller in Indianapolis, and who will be joined by Judge Mary Beth Bonaventura from Lake County, juvenile court judge there as well. Please come forward for the unveiling of Justice Rush's portrait. Justice Selby, some remarks first.
Chief Justice Dixon, members of the Court of Appeals, honored guest, Governor Daniels. I am very honored to be a part of this very special day. When Justice Rush called me and asked me if I would be a part of the program today, I was thrilled, honored, and yes, a little bit puzzled. And so there began a journey that I hope will not end anytime soon. We spent some time together in her chambers, and as I walked in, I noticed and was greeted by old furniture, old faces, old decorations that all looked so very familiar to me. And indeed, she welcomed me to her new place, to her new chambers, and yet it had a feel of familiarity to me as well, as did some of the faces at the court, some new and some, yes, who had been around for quite some time. We talked about that very thing, the nature of an institution. The court is such a thing in our way of life. The court, the judiciary, is an institution, and as such, it endures. And we talked a lot about what it means to join such an institution. You've already heard the wonderful things that Justice Rush is going to bring to this court. You've heard about her compassion and commitment to the children and families of our state. You've heard about her dedication to the rule of law. You've heard about her broad experience and deep roots in the city of Lafayette. All of these things will be important additions to the Indiana Supreme Court. But one of the things that I think are important as we look forward are a couple of things that she herself mentioned during her conversation and interview with the nominating commission. Justice Rush said that she thought one way in which the judiciary could improve and grow would be to increase its transparency in order to enhance public trust in the judiciary. And I believe, and I am sure, that she will bring that to the Indiana Supreme Court. She will bring it through her unique voice. And it's a voice that I believe many are familiar with. We've heard about how it has been expressed in her prior role as judge of the juvenile court in Lafayette. But believe me and rest assured, Jacob, Mary, Sarah, and of course Luke, it'll still be the voice of Mom to you. And to Jim, it will still be the voice of Loretta and wife to you. We all are concerned about that, and I think the only person who really has to worry is sister of Loretta, who says she's lost her name. She's now sister, Loretta's sister. Someday you may gain your name back as well. But two justices on the Supreme Court, you are about to experience, and I believe enjoy, a new voice, that of Justice Loretta Rush. So congratulations and Godspeed.
The court is now going to take a brief recess, and when we come back and assume the bench in just a moment or two, this seat will be occupied.
All rise. The court will be in recess. Please remain at your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the Justices of the Indiana Supreme Court.
And the Justices of the Indiana Supreme Court are, on my far left, your right, Mark Massa, Loretta Rush. On my far right, your far left, Steve David, and Robert Rucker. I'm Brent Dixon, and I would ask Chief Judge Robb to introduce the members of her court. I forgot to mention the tax court judge, Martha Wentworth, is also here. Judge Robb, would you introduce the members of your court? Thank you. Justice Rush, I invite you to make some remarks.
Wow. Thank you. I have to start off. Luke, could you just stand for just a minute? Luke? No? Today is Luke's 11th birthday. So this morning, Luke goes, well, Mom, when does today get to be about me? So, Luke, I tell you, about 1 o'clock today, it's all about you, all right? I can't tell you what an honor and how humbling it is to be up here before you today. This is beyond anything I ever thought that I would accomplish professionally. I thought of so many things to talk about, but I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude and thankfulness. Thank you for braving the elements to come. Thank you over in the Senate. I'm thinking about you now. I want to start off by thanking all of you from Tippecanoe County that are here. You've worked with me over the years. Probation officers are here, my court reporters are here, our staff, case managers, our youth service directors, CASAs, foster parents, teachers, volunteers. We have representatives from city and county government. You are incredible partners in making our justice system work. The collective work of these individuals helped improve so many lives in our community. I know that you'll carry on the work that we started. Aaron Johnson's one of my favorite probation officers here, and I have heard he does some really good imitations of me from the bench. So Aaron, if you want to find and be entertained, he's back there in the corner. I've heard they're really good. I haven't seen them. You may want to meet with him. Many friends of our family are here today. Hello and thank you for coming. We have weathered many tragedies, triumphs, and traumas over the years with humor, family dinners, family vacations, and much love and support. Thank you for bringing such balance to our lives. Trial judges, there are a lot of you here. Thank you for coming, and thank you for the support you've given me over the years. All of you in the courtroom played a role in me getting here. I'm very proud to have been a trial court judge in Indiana. From the time of our new judge's orientation, to calls from the bench, to committee work, to work that we did to improve our system, you are a strong bunch. The weight of the judiciary and the promise of how great our profession is you're faced with every day in your courtrooms. My colleagues from the Tippecanoe County bench and bar, I'm truly grateful for all your support. I'm going to miss our lively monthly judges meetings. I owe a debt of gratitude to my entire community. When I decided to apply for this position, the outpouring of support from so many corners of our community was astounding. You hoisted me on your collective shoulders and brought me here. I didn't get here alone. Thank you to the Judicial Nominating Commission for all the work you do. And to you, the judges and attorneys that have the resilience and the courage to put your name forth in this process. Governor Daniels, thank you for the trust that you had in me. And thank you for all that you've done for the state of Indiana these past 8 years. You have left an indelible mark on our Supreme Court. Having worked with Justices David and Massa, they are incredibly wise choices. The jury's still out on me, but I'm going to give you my best. And Governor, don't let Luke Rush talk you out of another note for school today. He doesn't have school today. And he would just save it for some other occasion. I have to say thank you. There's so many of my family, extended family, that are here with me today. My brothers Jim and Ryan, my sister Helene, countless nieces and nephews. We lost our parents, Monique and Ed Hogan, in the last year. I wish they could be here today. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I owe a huge gratitude to my sister Elaine. We moved every year when we were growing up. I followed Helene to Purdue. I invaded her closet. I used to wash dishes with her in the dormitory cafeteria. I actually got her demoted. I was the catcher to her pitcher on a baseball team called the Kelly Green Jelly Beans. Not exactly a name that struck any fear in any of our opponents. She has been with me and helped me throughout my life. My brother Jim is here with his family from Georgia. Jim followed the entire judicial nominating process, and he was actually one that called me to tell me I'd made the final 3. So thank you, Jimmy. I have to take a moment to recognize our children, Jake, Mary, Sarah, and Luke. What a blessing you've been. The love, the laughter that's been in our home, you are the highlight of my life. I'm very proud of each of you. I remember when I was going through this nominating process, and during one interview, because there's a lot of interviews, I think it was with the governor's people, and they asked, what are you most proud of? And I instantly, raising kind children. You are kind children. Very thankful for you. Finally, and very important, my husband of 31 years, Jim Rush. You are my loving partner, my rock. Thank you for your unwavering faith in me, your ability to spiritually ground me, and in the best and hardest of times. I would not be here without you. In sitting up here, take a moment, let's look at all these pictures. 107 Supreme Court justices that have come before me. It's hard not to consider what all they accomplished to attain a seat on our court. I know I think about it when I sit in here and up here. And speak of just a few. Justice Sullivan, I'm so delighted to take your place. We are all keenly aware of all the differences you made. We are a better judiciary because of the work you put in and the inroads and the projects that you started that we will carry on. And I'd also like to bring, he's not only made a difference in the years he was on the bench, now he, as a law professor over at IU McKinney, he is instructing our next generation of lawyers. Justice Rucker. I have to thank Justice Rucker because one of the things I found out early, well, my first day, was a new justice gets to vote first on every case. So we sit around the conference table, and I always say, do I still go first? And he goes, yes, you go first. Justice Rucker probably had the longest history as a new justice deciding every case is first with his 11 years. So I think he's very happy to have worked his way up. But I will tell you, he will not give me a pass. I'll sit there and go, oh, and he goes, you're deciding. Okay, we're going. Chief Justice Dixon. I had the honor of working with the Chief Justice briefly in the beginning of my career, and what an unexpected blessing to be working with you again. He's a fine gentleman, this man, a mentor, scholar, humanitarian, and over the next several years, I'm determined to find out his secrets to not aging. Chief Justice Shepard, in addition to the myriad of improvements that you brought to our judicial system, unbeknownst to you, you had a tremendous impact on my own judicial tenure. At my very first judicial conference, you challenged us judges to get out from behind our benches to make our community stronger. I remembered and practiced that charge at every opportunity. And I believe that it was some of that work that brought me here today. Thank you. There are countless other stories, but I'm going to touch just on one more. And in the second row back there, second row, 6 over from the left, I'm going to talk about our 41st Justice, Justice Leonard Hackney. He served our court for 6 years, from 1893 to 99. He came on the bench when he was just 37 years old. He never went to college or law school. He learned his craft from other attorneys. During his first year on the Supreme Court, he authored the majority opinion upholding a woman's right to be an attorney admitted to the bar in Indiana. Chief Justice Margaret Robb of the Court of Appeals, who is a dear and helpful friend of mine, authored the piece about Justice Hackney in a book about Justice of the Supreme Court. My portrait only hangs there in these walls because of Hackney, Sullivan, Shepard, Dixon, Robb, Selmy, and so many others that have come before. Thank you. I chose to become a lawyer and ultimately a judge because I enjoy the challenge of applying law to the questions and controversies of life. I come to the Supreme Court after 30 years of working in Indiana courtrooms. I've been a direct beneficiary of the excellent standards set by our Supreme Court, and I've learned many lessons along the way that I bring to this position, and I'm going to share just a few of them. For the last 14 years as a trial court judge, I had the honor of serving the citizens of Tippecanoe County, most particularly their children. There are broad lessons that I learned from presiding over these cases. My most important task was to treat each case that came before me as the most important case that I ever encountered in my legal career, and I'm thankful for having had the opportunity to work on each and every one of them. Under the glass on my bench in Tippecanoe County were pictures of hundreds of children that appeared before me in court. I now have those pictures proudly displayed in my chambers, and we invite you to come by and see it here in the State House. Those pictures are a constant reminder of the importance of all the work we do. Little did I know that it was those children that were actually preparing me for today. The trial court also helped me see the importance of the work judges need to do when they come out from behind the bench. The relationships formed by courts engaging with the other branches of government, the public and private entities, are a critical part of making our community stronger. I learned that our justice system is about a lot more than just the judges. I appreciate all the support staff, probation officers, volunteers, law enforcement, service providers, educators, government, attorneys, businesses. They all help make the wheels of justice work. I learned that collegiality and civility are an ever-important benchmark of our profession. Before I was a judge, for 15 years I practiced in Indiana courtrooms through numerous bench and jury trials. I'm forever grateful to the tremendous mentors earlier in my career that taught me the benefits of civility and collegiality and instilled in me the obligation we have to provide training, direction, and instruction to the next generation of attorneys and judges. In closing, I look forward to serving this position for a long time, as long as I am able. I promise to be fair and impartial as I respect and protect the rule of law in Indiana. I look forward to the day that a woman's appointment to this court is unremarkable. I promise to work hard as one of these 5 to ensure the people of Indiana can rightfully place their trust and confidence in our judicial system. And I'm going to end with a quote from the late Irma Bombach. When I stand before God at the end of my life, I want to be able to say to him, I used everything you gave me. Thank you.
Today's robing ceremony marks the completion of a massive transformation of the Indiana Supreme Court. But only a transformation of judicial faces, not one of tradition or policy or practice. As Indiana's 108th Justice, Loretta Rush brings to this court and to the citizens of Indiana a servant leader, as Will Miller said, one with enormous intellect, determination, a respect for precedent and judicial restraint, compassion, openness to innovation, personal strength, and leadership. She will be a fitting successor in the seat on this court that was so well served for over 19 years by her predecessor, Justice Frank Sullivan. Prepared for her new responsibilities by Indiana Public Schools, Loretta Rush attended Richmond High School in Richmond, Indiana. And then she worked to put herself through Purdue University, where she graduated with a GPA of 5.7 on a 6-point system, And from Purdue, she went to graduate cum laude from Indiana University's Maurer School of Law in Bloomington. Thus equipped with a sterling academic background and an uncommonly broad series of life experiences as a young law graduate, Loretta Rush came to Lafayette, Indiana. And she accepted a position with a small general practice law firm. This was 30 years ago. In the ensuing years, she first served as a general practice and trial lawyer, handling all kinds of cases for 15 years. And then she was elected to be a Superior Court judge in Tippecanoe County for the next 14. For those of you who may not know, serving a busy juvenile court immerses a judge in a wide spectrum of disputes. It's not all juvenile law. You have to become an expert in family law, guardianship law, criminal law, tort law, trial procedure, just about every other area of law. They all seem to find their way into juvenile court. And as today's presenters have already noted, Justice Rush has an uncommon gift for synthesizing and synergizing the courts with various governmental and community groups to better serve shared common objectives. She will now be continuing and expanding on those abilities and serving the statewide judiciary. Justice Rush also brings to the Indiana Supreme Court a perspective beyond that of legal scholar, client advocate, or thoughtful jurist. She has actually experienced the legal system as the victim of violent crime. She has known what it is like to be subjected to depositions, to in-court testimony, personally intrusive cross-examination. She has seen the justice system in a way that, fortunately, few of the rest of us ever do. We will doubtless benefit greatly from her insights and her perspectives from this ordeal. In the 6 weeks or so that Justice Rush has been working with other justices on the court, we've all been enormously impressed with her conscientious diligence, her thorough preparation, her insight and sound judgment, and her warm collegiality. And we're confident that with the addition of Justice Loretta Rush, the Indiana Supreme Court will continue to build upon the achievements of the recent past and to earn the respect and admiration of Hoosiers and court observers everywhere. So now, as I close, I again present to you the 108th Justice of the Indiana Supreme Court, Justice Loretta Rush.
Please remain standing as the court is adjourned. This court is adjourned.